Welcome everyone to this fifth lecture of Power BI course. Let's do a quick recap of what we have learned together so that it will refresh your memories also, and we'll connect it back to a few of the concepts that we have learned. So in very first session we had gone through the introduction of Power BI. We take a look to the official definition of it, what business intelligence is, what is Power BI, major Power BI components, and then the installation, of course. In the second session, we had gone through some of the connectors to import the data and then play around it. We also learned about Kaggle.com, which is a very helpful website to download data sets to play around different connectors that will help you to understand many options within Power BI. We also loaded a sample CSV, again downloaded from Kaggle.com. And then in the end, we learned about the transform versus add column, and of course in went through the report, model, and table view, not in detail but at a very high level. In section 3 we again explore one of the power connectors, which is web scraping, and then we learned about scraping a data from a Wikipedia page, convert into tabular format. And then in the fourth section, we learned about the storage modes, how the storage modes work in Power BI, what are different kinds of storage mode, what are the different advantages and the disadvantage, of course, of the different storage modes that we have. Having said that, let's go to the agenda of this section. In this section, we will learn about the profiling tool. What profiling tool is, how it helps us in identifying the data or correcting the data even. It's kind of providing an overview of your entire data, because you cannot go to each of the rows. Let's say if you have millions of rows, then how would you identify that if there is something wrong with the data in a particular column, or the data accuracy is fine or not, how the trend is across all those values available within a column. So that is all about profiling tool. Major profiling tool that we have is column quality, column distribution, and column profile. We'll learn through this in a detail in this section, and how we can access those profiling tool under Power Query Editor in the view section. Let's jump into Power BI now. Okay, I'm into Power BI now, and we are going to use again one data sets downloaded from Kaggle.com. So before I show the profiling tool within Power BI, let's go to Kaggle.com once, and I'll show you how I navigate through it and downloaded one of the data sets that we have. So I'm into Kaggle.com, I went to data sets, and if you scroll down a little, you'll have one data which is global AI tool adoption across industries. So this is the data sets I'm going to use. I'll provide this link in the description box. Alright, moving to Power BI now. What we're going to do is get the data from again a text CSV, which we have already learned. So click on it, and then this is the original data sets, and this is a copy of it. I created a copy of it just to show you how we are going to utilize Power BI in case the data is something wrong, or how to refine it before jumping into actual Power Query, right? So I'll select this and I will open it. Okay, I'll simply go on transform data, which will open a Power Query editor window. So we are into this Power Query editor window now. We have learned about a very little about this transform section, which is to transform the data within a column in place. And we have learned a little again about this add column, where you want to add a new column based on some of the values, concatenation, anything, but not in detail. So I'll go through those two sections, but for time being, what we're more interested in today is go to this view section. So Power Query Editor and view. This is where this profiling tool comes into picture. This data preview is actually the profiling tool. What it does, for example, if you click on this column quality, right, then it will show you that, let's say, within a country column, all the values are valid. There is no error and there is no empty values available. Same goes for industries, AI tools, adoption rate, this one. So everything is perfectly filled up. If you see, every column have a 100% valid entries. But that's not always the case in the real life scenarios. What will happen? You will find that in many of the values are blank, sometimes not available, or it is marked as NA. Or let's say when you have a mail ID, it is formed in a different way than actual mail ID is supposed to be. And sometimes, let's say, a phone number not instantiated. It could be many things that can happen with your data. And that's where Power BI will actually let you know whether some of the values within a column are blank or not. Your values are valid according to whatever you have. So that what this column quality shows you. Let me uncheck it and go for column distribution. Then it's again a very powerful tool. What it will do is will give you a very high level insights of it. So let's say for countries, it says there are 10 distinct countries available and there are no unique. So distinct means, I hope you all know what distinction means. So every values, if we take the duplicates of it, then we will have 10 values in total. And there is no unique. That means there is no values within this column that is not repeated. So if value is repeated, it is not unique. And when you are unique, and if you remove the duplicates, you get 10 distinct values. Same goes for industries, where you have 8 distinct industries. So same goes for AI tool. Adoption rate is something you will understand that it says 914 unique values. So those 914 unique values is not repeated, while 957 distinct values are available, right? The third option is the column profile. So if you click on it and in any other column, then it will show you that, let's say, India appear to be 116 times, which is 11% of it. The same way for UK and so on. And if you notice, it says count is equal to 1000. Why so? The reason why Power BI do the sampling and perform all these column quality, column distribution, column profile, or any other sampling based on the first 1000 rows of the data. Let's look into one more, let's say industry. So the agriculture is 136, 13% of it, again 1000. While few of these stats make very sense, but few may not. Let's say it says minimum is agriculture and max is transportation. That doesn't make sense actually. And why it says so? Because it's arranging those words in a chronological order. And that's why agriculture came at the very first and transportation came at the very last. That's why it says min and max, but that do not make any sense to me. And let's say if I go to year, then probably more stats will make sense. So the count is same. And if you see the average is this one, again the average may not make sense here actually. But if you see the minimum is 2023 and max is 2024. So in this case, the min and max is making sense. So based on different columns that you select, few of the statistics may not make sense. So you need to be very careful about it. The other important point is, let's say if you have first 1000 rows and on top of which the Power BI is making the sampling, but what if all the values, let's say in the current country column, after 1000 rows is blank? So that will make a wrong prediction, because let's say if I click on column quality, everything is happening as 100% valid, no error, no empty. And let's say after 1000 rows, everything is not as we are expecting. So to do that, you have to click on it and then select this option, column profiling based on entire data set rather than first 1000 rows. So let's select it. And because we have around 150,000 rows, it will take its own time to perform those statistics against 1000 rows, which is very fast. Okay, so I have the data now. It is still 100% valid, no error, no empty, and so for other columns also. So I've saved another copy of it where I have manually modified those values to showcase you something very obvious. What I will do is just close this Power Query editor. I don't want to load really. And then I'll go to this get data again, text CSV. Now this time I will load this copy of it where I have made some modifications manually. Let's wait for the data to be loaded. I'll click on transform data. I'll go to view again. The column quality still shows 100%. And the reason why, because again the profiling is happening on top 1000 rows, which may or may not be correct at times, because let's say the first 1000 rows are very cleaned, but after that, or maybe at the bottom of the data, the data is getting degraded. So what I'll do is I'll simply select this entire data set. It will take some time because we have more than 150,000 of data, 150,000 rows of data. So let's wait for it to load. Now that stats are loaded, you see here it says empty is less than 1%, and if I hover over it, it says there are 8 rows of empty columns, which I of course modified manually. Power BI is intelligent enough to give you a few of the options. Let's say if there are errors, it will say that remove errors, or if there are duplicates, it will say remove duplicates, or so on. Here, because there are empty values, what it says that if you want, I can remove empty for you directly, or there are other options also available, like keep duplicates, keep errors, remove empty, remove duplicates, remove errors, replace errors, and then many more. So what we can do is, let's say if I want to remove empty, I can select this or remove empty. Anything will work fine, so I'll choose this one. You might have noticed that the moment I click on this remove empty, there is one more filtered rows steps are applied. That is all in terms of the major profiling tool. There are two more, which is called monospaced. So monospaced nothing but changing the font of the characters available here. So if I, let's say if I do this, you see that font is changed, and what this is for each of the character it reserves a specified amount of space. The other is white space. So this utility is only applicable, let's say if I open a notepad for example, and if I type, let's say, untitled notepad, then let's say I copy it a couple of more time, and if I give two spaces here, so let's say if you have something like this under a column, Power BI will treat every one of them and show it as the same thing rather than showing this way. So if you want to see why the comparison is not happening, because underlying all these values are unique, but the Power BI will show you as this one, like this. So if you want to show space, so white space, then only it will give you the actual formation of it. And sometimes it's really difficult to identify why something is not working, why it is giving a 4 unique values rather than 1, right? Okay. There are a few more things like in the view tabs is like query settings. So if you click on it, this query setting will go away, and the same goes for formula bar if you want to hide it or not. So we have covered this layout and data preview under view section. Go to column is again a very simple thing, and this is something I will cover in subsequent section because this is kind of a little, especially these two are little advanced topics, so this will be covered in later in this course. So that is all for today. Thank you for watching.